Muse for you, awesome websites without code.
My mind is blown. Responsive compositions and slideshows are finally here. Adobe Muse released an update last night, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. I've been playing with it. It's just amazing. So we're going to have a really fun tutorial today. I'm going to go over a few of the updates that were released in last night's release. To check out the release notes for the latest version of Adobe Muse, just type in Adobe Muse release notes, and I'll leave a link to this in the description area below. And here we go, Adobe Muse release notes. So I'm not going to read over the release notes, I'll let you do that. But basically the slideshow, composition, and contact form widgets are now responsive. They're fully responsive. So before they wouldn't respond to the browser width. So when you're working with breakpoints, the form would stay a fixed width, or the composition or slideshow. But now that's all changed. So as we can see, Adobe Muse is becoming more and more robust. I'm just super excited to see the progress of Adobe Muse. And I created a website specifically to showcase the responsive composition. There's other updates. There's stability and performance improvements. There's productivity improvements. And you can take a look at that in the Adobe Muse release notes. So I'm going to try to make this video fairly quick. I'm going to try not to stumble upon my words. So let's get started. The website we'll be creating is this car website. So I've been working on this website since the new version was released, and all the asset files to this website will be in the description area below. So you can go ahead and just click on that link to download the asset files and start working with the responsive composition. So it is a car website, and I'll just quickly go through it, and then we'll start building it. And the first thing I'm going to build is the responsive composition, so we can see how it works and just start using it. So I'll scroll down, and basically we have the header image, we have a menu, and here we have the responsive composition. So yeah, it's 6 different tabs, and if I click on the tabs, it slides through the different sections. So we're using triggers and targets in Adobe Muse. And what's great about this, if I resize the browser, we can see the elements inside the composition are responsive, and the composition widget itself is responsive. And it's really great too, because the responsiveness is shown as you're building the site. So you can add breakpoints, and the composition widget resizes with the breakpoints. So it's really amazing. Really helps with working on the website. So I didn't add any breakpoints on this one. We're using a 1600 with fluid width breakpoint, and I just wanted to showcase the responsiveness of it. But you could add a breakpoint around here and just rearrange the elements, and I'll go over that as we're building the site. All right, then we have this section here, top features. Then we have another composition widget here. I just used the same image just because this is an example website. All right, then we have a gallery. We're using the responsive lightbox gallery widget for this. Also, these cars are Audi cars. I'm not affiliated with Audi, but they just have really cool cars, and it makes for a really cool car website. So yeah, that's the responsive lightbox gallery. If I click, we can go through the images, and it looks nice. And then here we have another section, and we're using the lightbox widget for this section. If I click play, we have the image in the background, and we have this audio video that I got from YouTube, and I'll leave a link to it in the description area below as well. All right, so this is the website we'll be building, and I think there's one more section. There's top news here. I kind of left it blank just to save some time. And then we have a footer section with social media logos and links at the bottom. So this site was basically created to showcase the responsive composition. So we'll be building this first, and then we'll add all the other elements just to get some practice using Adobe Muse. Again, I'll leave the Adobe Muse release notes in the description area below so you can take a look. But yeah, it's just mainly more things are responsive, and it makes designing the website funner, cooler, and more responsive, if I can put it in simple terms. All right, so I'll open up Adobe Muse, and here we have the website. So I'm just gonna go to File, New Site, and we're gonna set the max page width here to 1600. and then I'll double click on the home page, and here we have the website. We have a 1600 width breakpoint, as we can see right here. Looks good. So I'm going to be referencing the website I already created a bit to just kind of see where I placed different elements. But I'll go ahead and start creating the responsive composition first. So to do this, we'll go to Object, Insert Widget, and we'll click on Composition, and I'll just bring in a blank composition. So we'll click right there, and I'll place into Adobe Muse. And just like that, we have the composition. So what I can do now is if I click on the target area, so we have the triggers, these buttons down here are the triggers, and this is the target. I'm going to delete the second and third trigger because I'm going to style the trigger and the target initially, and then I want all the other triggers to inherit the properties of the first trigger, and this will make sense in a second. So I'll delete the third trigger and I'll delete the second trigger here. All right, and looks good. So now I'm going to set the target to be responsive in width, and that's going to make it responsive. So I'll select the target right here. I'll go to the resize option up here, and now we see we can set it to responsive width. Before we didn't have this option, but now we do. So we don't have stretch to browser width, but we can set it to the width of the browser by dragging the left edges and the right edges all the way across the page. So I'll just drag here from the left, bring it all the way to the left until it's flush with the left side, and I'll bring it to the right here till it's flush to the right, and it should be 1600 pixels in width because that's the size we set the page to. So there we have the target, and we want to set the height of this target to 600 pixels in height. So I'll go to the height option right up here. The width and height are not constrained, so when I change the height, the width won't change, and we know that because this is not locked. If it's constrained, it looks like a link, and if it's unconstrained, the link isn't together there. All right, so the height, I'll set it to 600, and it looks good. So there we have it, and I'll just make sure that on the X position, the X location, it's at 0, so it's flush with the left side of the website. Okay, so if I move this, the target got hidden behind. I want to place the target so I can see it, and just place the target right in there. So now if I preview just to show a demonstration of the responsiveness of the composition, we see, it's not like it stops at, we have white space on the sides, and that's because the page expansion option isn't set. So what we can do is right up here, we can set the page expansion to go outward. So this page will expand beyond the largest breakpoint, which is 1600. I sound like a real nerd. So all right, so now we can see it's fully responsive. So if we resize, that target extends the page width. I actually don't want it to do that, and it's going to make more sense in a second. I do want it to stop at this 1600 mark, and I'm going to place a rectangle behind, 100% width rectangle behind that, just because I don't want the elements inside the target to expand beyond 1600, because then they can get skewed and they'll lose quality if the image isn't big enough, and that'll make more sense in a second. All right, so there we have it, and I'll change the page expansion back to not expanding, just like, because I mentioned that I don't want the target to go beyond 1600, because then the elements inside the target will get larger as well, and it could look a little bit odd. Okay, so there we have the target, and now we want to set up the triggers. So if we go to the website, these are the triggers. So if I click on Overview, Design, Services, Models, Sport, those are the triggers, and the target changes. So when I click a trigger, the target changes, and you'll notice that the triggers don't extend to the full page width, and that's again because we don't have the page expanding, but I did add a rectangle behind the composition so that it fills the entire browser. All right, so I'm going to start placing the triggers, and each trigger for this, it's 267 pixels in width. Oh, I'm changing the Y coordinates. Let's undo that. So it's 267 pixels in width, and the height is 100, because there's 6 triggers, and 1600 divided by 6 is about 267. We're rounding up. It's like 266.66. Okay, so there we have the trigger. I'll place it right on top of the target. And right away, I'm going to remove the stroke because the triggers come with the stroke. So I'm going to remove it. I'm going to say 0 for the stroke. And that's all we have to do there. And I'm also going to remove the stroke for the target. So I'll click on the target, and for the stroke, I'll say 0. All right, so now let's style the target and the triggers. So let me place this here, make sure it's on the 0 mark. I'm going to style these, the target and the trigger. So let me just make sure it's on top there. And for the background color for the target, I want it to be this color here. So in the fill option, I'll say 202020, and that's the color there. Let's go to the normal state. So we want to go to the states panel because I want it to be a different color for the normal state and for the active state. So I'll select normal, and then for the fill drop down, I'll say 202020. That's the normal state. Rollover state, I want it to be red, and the red color we're going to be using is, see if I can find it here. Yep, F9 2929. Okay, that's the rollover state. The mouse down state, I want it to be red as well, and the active state, I want it to be red. So F9 2929, and I'll go ahead and add it to the swatches panel, and I'll click OK here so that I can reuse this color. All right, so if we go to the states panel, it should be the normal state should be a darker color, like this dark black or gray, and then the other states should be red. Okay, and then for the target area, so I'll click on the target, and this color is going to be, I'll click on the fill option, click the drop down. This color is 1C, yeah, 1C, 1C, 1C. We'll just capitalize that there, 1C, 1C, and perfect. And I'll add it to the swatches as well. Okay, so there we have the trigger and the target. So now if I duplicate or add more triggers, they'll have the same styling, and I won't have to change the styling for 6 different triggers and targets. So I'll click on the trigger, and then we have this plus symbol right here to the right. So I'll go ahead and click the plus symbol, and actually I'm going to use my magic mouse here so the click isn't too loud. All right, there we go. So we have another trigger and we have another target. So I'll click again, and I'll just line them up. So I want to make sure that these are really kind of touching each other, so there's no space in between the triggers. And this one here, and we'll add another trigger right there, and we're noticing some white space, so I'm going to work on that. Okay, perfect. All right, so I do notice there's white space here. Okay, there's like these little white spaces in between the triggers, which I don't want. So I'm going to preview just to see how that looks, and let me see if they have a stroke. Normal, they do have a stroke, so that's why we're getting that white space. Thought I took the stroke off, so when something like this happens, I just delete the triggers because it doesn't take much to add them again. So I'll click on this trigger, the normal state. We want to make sure that there's no stroke. So I'll just set the stroke to 0, and that should do it. So now we don't get that white space around there. So I'll click the plus and just line it up. Perfect, so we're not getting that space. All right, and the plus, and boom, and then the last one. All right, perfect. This one has a little bit of space. There we go. Okay, so there we have the targets or the triggers, and let's see how that looks. So I'll preview in the browser, go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and we have our composition. If I resize the browser, we can see the triggers resize, and so does the target. So that's, a major update in the latest release. The composition widget is now responsive. So we set it to responsive with, added the triggers and the target. So now let's add some content to the targets. So I'll click on the first trigger, excuse me. I'll go to my Finder. So all these assets, they'll be included in the zip file that you can download below. And the asset I'm going to add here is models car image 1. So I'll click, hold, and drag, place into Adobe Muse, and we'll place it right in there. Okay, and the fonts we're going to be using for this website is FF Dagny Pro. So if you don't have that web font, you can just go to File, Add, Remove Web Fonts, and just type in FF Dagny Pro. Yeah, Dagny Pro. I already have it installed, but then you can just click, make sure that blue check mark is blue, or the check mark is blue, and it will install into Adobe Muse, and you can use it. So I think I'm going to copy and paste content from the first website just so we can move through the process a bit quickly. And I'll tell you all the font sizes and everything. I'm going to include this website in the asset files as well, so you can just reference the website and just use the different sizes and elements that we used for this website. So I'm just going to copy this content right here, and I'll copy these buttons. I'll hit Command C to copy. Oops. Go back into the home page, and I'll just paste right in there. So there we have the content, and easy. So just makes it easy to kind of go through the website here. Okay, so we have the content there. Now I'll go to the second trigger, and we're going to use this next car, models car image 2. So I'll place in there, and we'll place it right there, and I'll paste that content again. And let's see. Oh, okay. So yeah. So when you're pasting content into the target, you want to select the target so you're not pasting content into the trigger. So again, the buttons here are the triggers, and this is the target. So I'll click on the target and paste, and there we have the content. Perfect. And I'm not going to be like super perfect about the alignment because this video would be super long if I worried about all the alignment and things like that. Again, it'll be in the website file, the .muse file, so you can reference all the exact dimensions, X and Y locations, and things like that. All right, so for the third target, I'm just going to copy all of this here. Oops. Click on the trigger on the target and paste, just like that. For the fifth one, I'll do the same thing, paste right in there. And then let me copy this here, copy that, go into the fourth target, click on the fourth trigger, click on the target, paste, sixth, click on the target, and paste. So there we have the composition filled. If I go to File, Preview Page, and Browser, and I click, we have the composition there. All right, looks good. So we see it's fading. We can change it to slide. So we'll just go into the composition, open the widget options, and here in the transition where it says fading, we'll set it to horizontal, so the slides move horizontally. So I'll preview, and if I click, we see it's moving horizontally. Looks good. So it's a really, really awesome thing to have this responsive, because if I resize, we see the text resizes, but everything is responsive within the target. So I can just add a breakpoint and then change the design or the layout of the elements within the composition. Really awesome. All right, so we've done that. So let's go ahead and keep designing the website. We do want to add the text in here inside the triggers. So I'll just create a text box. I'll select the text tool, and I'll create a text box in the trigger. And let me reference the website. So we have overview, design, services, model, sport, and customize. So I'll type in overview, select it, go to the text panel, make it all uppercase. This is FF Dagny Pro, and the text is white, and the vertical spacing is 2. Let me reference the other website here. Vertical spacing is 2, font size is 14, and that's it. So let's go back in here, and yeah, and I'll center it. So it's centered and looks good. So let me zoom in here. All right, so there we have the text, and I'm gonna make this text span the size of the trigger. So when it does get responsive, it has more space and the text won't go below each other. Okay, so I'll copy this text box, and paste into that trigger. And this is designed. Okay, so double click, design, paste again. So yeah, let me paste in there. Yep. Design overview, services, I think it was. Design, services, models, sport, and customize. Okay. All right, click here. Models. Sport. And customize. Okay, perfect. So let's see how that looks. So I'll preview. And perfect. There we have our responsive composition. Nice. Looks good. All right, so let's continue with the design of the site. I'm going to place this composition at the 900 mark because we're going to add a header image. So I'll select the rectangle tool, create a 100% width rectangle that's 900 pixels in height. So in the resize option, I'll just make sure it says stretch to browser width, and then I'll go to fill, add image, and then we have the header image here. So I'll double click, and for the fitting, I'll say scale to fill, position it in the center. Perfect. So there we have the header image. Now let's move on to the next section, which is top features. So we're going to go to top features, and yep, so I'll say top features, and let's zoom in here, and we'll make it all uppercase. The size for this, I believe, is 40 pixels, and we're using two fonts for this. So for the top, we're using FFC or FF Dagny Pro Bold, and then we highlight features, and we're using FF Dagny Pro, not bold. Okay, and the color for top is red. So we'll use that red color that we added to the swatches, and that's it. We'll add a bit more tracking. So let's see, we'll say 5 for the tracking, and that's it. Okay, and then I'll center it. So we'll align it to the center. Okay, looks good. So we have top features, and let me just double check that it's 40 pixels. Yep, 40 pixels, great. Okay, so we'll just add some rectangles. So we'll do this. So yeah, I'm kind of gonna do a quick, kind of a large shortcut. I'm just gonna copy all this content. You can go ahead, just click on the website, just click on the rectangle. You'll see that this rectangle is 460 pixels in width and 500 pixels in height. And this image is the same. We just filled the image with top features car image 1 and top features car image 2. So rather than repeating the same information over and over, I'm just going to copy and paste this and just paste it in here. All right. Otherwise, we'll be here for a really long time. And I just wanted to kind of showcase the responsive composition. Okay, so there we have that. And let's go back to the website. And now we have this section here. So what I did for this section, we'll just go back into Muse. I just copied this composition widget, and I'll paste, and we'll place this down here. And there we go. So I just pasted the first composition widget, and let's see here. So there's only 5 here. And basically I just kind of styled it a bit differently. So we'll delete one of the buttons here, and we'll just center all of these triggers within the website, and we'll resize the target to be like this. So it's going to go over the trigger, but then we're going to open the widget options, and we're going to say triggers on top. So now the triggers will go above the target. Okay, and just like that, we have that. Looks good. So now the height of this will be 700 pixels in height. The target will be 700 pixels in height. And we're going to change the color, the normal color for the different triggers. So we can just select them all. Just like that. We'll go to the states panel for normal. We're on the normal state. So we'll go to fill, and we're going to change it to black. Just like that, if it lets me select it. So we'll say black. No, not that. So let's try that again. Okay, no, actually it did change to black. So there we go. So the normal state is black. All right, and it just kind of creates a bit of distinction between the first composition and the second composition. Okay, and so the target is at 2983. Okay, so there we go. And now we're going to change the text within the triggers. So engine, wheels, performance, interior, exterior. All right, so let me double click in here. Engine, wheels, performance, interior, and exterior. All right, perfect. And we're gonna delete all the content in here. Just delete that. Actually, for all of them. We're just gonna add the engine for these elements. Okay, and delete that, and I'll delete this as well. Okay, so now we'll go to the engine here. Here we're just going to take the engine image. So we have the engine image here, so I'll click, hold, and drag, place it to Adobe Muse, place it on the right, and I'll go back to the reference website and just copy this content in here, again, to save some time for this tutorial. And we'll paste in there. All right, looks good. We'll place that somewhere in there. And perfect. And I'll just copy this content into the other targets. So again, click in there, perfect. Move this a little bit lower. And let's just see here. So on the X it's 279, Y is 3105. Okay. X 279 and Y is 3105. Or let's see. $31.40 for the Y. $31.40. So yeah, we'll just position it in there. Okay, looks good. All right, so we'll copy that and we'll go into performance, click on the target and paste, and we'll just move it down. Okay. I'm not going to be super exact right now, but just to give the idea. Okay, and I keep pasting into the trigger. So you have to click on the target to make sure that it pastes into the target. Okay, looks good. All right, so there we have that composition, and let's go ahead and preview. And there we go. So now is a good time. I can kind of showcase what I did for the compositions, because we have white space on the left and the right. So what I did for this is, didn't mean to zoom in there, but what I did for this is I created a rectangle and set the rectangle to, in the resize, stretch the browser width, and the height I set it to the same height as the target, which was 600. Or actually the height plus the trigger is 700. And then for the fill, we'll click here, and the fill is 1C, 1C. So go into the fill option and we'll say 1C, 1C, 1C. All right, so we can see it there. It covers everything. So what I'm gonna do is right click, arrange, and send to back. There we have it, and I'll place it right at the top of the composition. So now if we preview, and we scroll, we don't have that white space in the background. We have that full width rectangle spanning the page width, and it looks good. So we click and we can see the different elements. Perfect. So I'm going to copy that rectangle and I'm going to paste it again here. I'm going to right click, arrange, send to back, and just do the same for the second composition. And perfect. So now we don't have that white space to the left and the right of the composition. All right, looks good. We have that nice composition. So if I resize the browser, we can see all the elements resize. So, you know, once the composition doesn't look good, or the elements inside the composition are kind of not in a good layout, you can add a breakpoint in Adobe Muse by right-clicking, adding breakpoint, and changing the elements. So yeah, as an example, I'll click on add breakpoint, and I'll say let's do 1280. So we'll add a 1280 breakpoint, and we can see the composition widget does change size, so we can work with it directly in Adobe Muse and just change the layout around. All right, so I'll keep it moving. I'm gonna go ahead and delete the breakpoint because I'm gonna add more elements. All right, so let's go back into the website and let's see the next section, the gallery here. So for this, I just brought in the responsive lightbox gallery from museforyoushop.com. So let me bring this down here. So let's go ahead and do that. RLG. So I'll bring in the RLG add first, and then I'll bring in the RLG images. So yeah, just bring this in here. Then you would add the thumbnail images. The thumbnail images are these ones, are gallery image 1 through 6. And then I added the header image for the images. So I'm just gonna go back into the reference website, copy this here, and paste this in here just to save some time. Okay, so the last thing I'm gonna do is add the lightbox widget, which is here. If I click the play button, it plays the video. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy it from the reference website right in here. I'm gonna copy and paste that and paste it into here, just like that. So as you can see, I'm moving kind of past a lot of different sections. Again, there is the reference website, so if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. I don't want this video to be like 2 hours, so I'm just kind of moving fairly quick. Okay, so there we have the composition widget. We've linked this button here, this play button, to a YouTube video. So now all I have to do is add the lightbox widget. Click on the lightbox add first, place right in there, and I'll bring in the lightbox widget. Perfect. And then this element already has the graphic style name, lbox1 applied to it, so when you click on it, it'll open the video. So I do have videos on the lightbox widget and the responsive lightbox gallery widget that showcase how to use it. So here in the lbox widget, or in the add first, we'll just open that up, and for the file, I'm going to select the header image, so we have that image in the background when the lightbox opens. So I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and let me scroll down here. So we'll scroll down, and yeah, so there's the lightbox. I copied and pasted from the first website, so it looks good. But here we just linked the play button to a YouTube video and assigned the graphic style name lbox1 to this element, so that when we click on it, it opens the video. And we also added that image to the lightbox background, so we have the image of the car in the background. All right, really simple, just simple and quick. So I think that's all I'm going to cover in this video tutorial. On the master page, we do have the, let me go to the car website here. On the master page, we do have the logo, the menu, and the header here, and it's all fixed to the top. For the menu, I created the menu, and then I added a red stroke to the bottom. So if you click on the text here within the menu, and just double click in there, and go to the different states, you'll notice that I added an underline to the rollover, mouse down, and active state. If you have any questions about that, let me know. Also in the footer section, I added the social media icons, the menu, and copyright here as well, and the logo and everything. So this is fixed to the top. So if I select all these elements, we see here, this is pinned to the upper left of the browser. This bar is pinned to the upper middle, and the menu is pinned to the upper right, so it stays fixed within the browser. Okay, so let's go ahead and preview that. I think we covered most of what I wanted to cover. Basically, it was the composition widget, and looks good. Perfect. So if we resize, we can go to different things here. Oh, for this composition widget as well. Actually, let's go to the site we worked on. For this composition widget, I also added a red stroke for the rollover, hover, and mouse down state. So we'll go ahead and click on this trigger. We'll go to the active state, and we're actually going to set the active state all to black for the fill. And the active state here to black, or yeah, to this black. Let me select all the triggers. So I'll hold down Shift to select all the triggers, and we'll go to the Yeah, so okay, good. They all have the same rollover, mouse down, and active state. So for this, I just want to go to stroke, or yeah, on the rollover state, go to the stroke option, uncheck the link stroke, and set the stroke to 2, and the stroke color, we're going to set it to red. And the same for the active state, stroke, set it to 2, or yeah, we want to make sure that this isn't locked, because we don't want an entire border around it, just a border at the bottom. And the stroke color, we're going to set it to red. Okay, so didn't really change it here, so let's go to the normal state. Let's try this again. Yep. Okay, so yeah, let me delete or set it to black, rollover, and active. So I have to do this for all the triggers because all the triggers have that red rollover. Okay. Okay, so I'll preview in the browser, and we'll scroll down right here. So when we hover, we have that red stroke underneath it. It's a nice effect, and you can just do that by changing the states within the states panel. So just select the trigger, go to the states, and we have rollover, mouse down, and active. And you can change the stroke here. Just make sure when you click on stroke in the strokes panel that this isn't locked. So when you add a stroke, it doesn't add like a border around the entire trigger, but only we only wanted a stroke at the bottom. So we set the bottom stroke to 2. Okay, so that's it. And I'm gonna open up one more website just to showcase the responsive slideshow. Okay, so here I have a website with the responsive slideshow. So I just added a slideshow image, and if I preview in the browser, you can now set the slideshow to be responsive width and height. Before you could set it to stretch to browser width, but now you can set it to responsive width and height. So as the browser resizes, the slideshow changes, the images change responsive in width and height. So that's all within Adobe Muse. You know, using the resize options, all the options for the slideshow and the composition widget are similar. The only difference is that they can now be responsive. So that's it for this video tutorial. Again, all of the assets and the reference website will be in the zip file that's available for download in the description area below. The widgets can be accessed at museforyoushop.com. And here you can click on join today, and here you can click subscribe now to get access to all widgets and any new widgets I come out with for $39 a year. Here we have the responsive lightbox gallery. We have the lightbox, and the other widgets are here as well. I also use the font smoother. I like to make the fonts really smooth. So just go into the library panel. This widget can also be found at museforyoushop.com. So I'll bring in the font smoother light. It just makes the font look a little bit nicer, and I'll preview. All right. Yeah, looks good. Okay, so back to Muse for You Shop. So yeah, there we have the widgets. You can click on the widget individually. So here, if I click on the lightbox, you can click add to cart to purchase individually. Or again, you can click subscribe to get access to all widgets and any new widgets I come out with for $39 a year. So that's it for this video tutorial. The cart website will also be in the description area below, so you can take a look. But yeah, it's a game changer. Responsive compositions and slideshows is just amazing. So that's it for this video tutorial. Again, I do this to help you build awesome websites without code. If you like this video tutorial, you can subscribe below. Also in the show more section below are links to other resources and links to museforyoushop.com. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video tutorial. Thank you.
Muse for You, awesome websites without code.